Perfect.
All right, so it's recording, Greg. Sorry, everyone, for the sort of cold start. New little thing I'm trying out on here with a little
Bear
AI
with me.
tool for for transcription and things. So it's kind of a cold start. We get dropped into it this morning. But anyway, today, Greg, we're going to be talking about the recent shooting in Texas,
Yep.
where it was late at night. Neighbor comes over, asks the guy, "Hey, can you please stop shooting? Kid's asleep, 1 month old is trying to sleep. It's nighttime, and he does the F you, get out of here. I'll do whatever I want on my front lawn." Goes back. They try to call police multiple times. The guy ends up coming over and killing 5 people after that initial altercation. And so this stuff gets played out in the news. There's a manhunt. He actually just got captured in
Okay.
that a few days later. And again, this is May 4th when we're recording this. So any details we have are up to about that date, really. I
May
guess
the
the
fourth be with you.
exactly. So we're talking about this case because these things pop up, and I feel that everyone gets this stuff wrong, so we
Yeah.
don't ever learn anything from these things. And so, everyone's either going to say, well, it's about the gun, and if he didn't have the gun, this wouldn't happen. And then other people are saying, well, they're all illegal immigrants, they shouldn't have been here, and he shouldn't have been here anyway. So if we had this happen, then he would never have been able to do this. Other people will say, well, if you had different laws on the books, this could have happened. If we had more law enforcement resources, it wouldn't have taken a couple hours or whatever it was to get there, because we would have had, everyone picks what they know or what they think or what they like, and they run with it, and they put that as that's the issue here that we need to address. And I think
Yep.
most of those are wrong, although those
Yep.
are things that you need to look at in terms of how you could respond better, how you could prevent something. There's different ways to look at it, but I want to talk about what this was really about, Greg. What do these things happen, and how do these happen, and why do they happen, and how do we prevent them from happening? Because we keep seeing this stuff happening. It happens all the time. It's getting highlighted a lot more now in the news right now, because people are losing interest in whatever else is going on in the world. So now we're shifting our focus to this, and so I kind of want to get into this because we don't ever learn anything by politically grandstanding after these things and taking some issue, and I'm going to put my ideology on it, and this is what we need to happen. And
Right.
I really, it gets annoying and frustrating because it never helps prevent the next one. And so all of these things, including this guy, what does it take for someone to walk into a house and start killing people, to including women, children, all that? There's a lot going on there, and that stuff leaks out beforehand, just like
Well,
the other
well before.
case of the recent one, the mass event in Oklahoma that we did for our Patreon subscribers. We're not going to talk about that on here, but another example. And so we get into, how do these things happen? Why does someone do this? How can I identify these sort of stress fractures that are appearing in people that cause this? So I don't know where we want to start with, other than maybe what is it? How does someone go from getting
Eh,
asked politely by a neighbor to, hey, do you mind going down the road a bit, shooting your gun because my 1 month old son is trying to go to bed, which seems like
Right.
a fairly reasonable thing to ask your neighbor. How does it go from that to 5 people being killed, a manhunt, across that state, and this happening? And there's obviously a lot going on underneath that, but whatever that moment was, then sort of was the contributing factor, or reason why he decided to say, you know what, not today, and
Yeah.
and so I kind of want to throw to you to start it, because there's a lot of other things we can talk about in here, including some other recent events. But I want to cut through all the ideological nonsense to get to the human behavior aspect.
Well, then let me fast rope in on a couple of comments that you made to set the stage for
Okay.
that. Because that's a great preamble, and I agree with everything that you said on this one. So I sent you a couple of notes just maybe 10 or 15 minutes ago to show you the different newspaper articles that covered it.
Yeah.
And so I read print news still, and I go online to find my news. I don't watch TV news because I don't want
Right.
the bias influencing me before I get to the facts. Then just like you do, I yellow pad those things and I
Right.
compile those notes. So here's the thing. I read over and over and over Hondurans and Mexicans,
Yeah.
Latino community. Okay, first of all, scrub all that shit. Humans are humans everywhere that something happens, right?
Sure.
Now, we may take a look at something because it said the suspect, Oropeza, had been deported 4 times. Well, that can be scurrilous or spurious. Why? Because being deported and being a prior deported felon are 2 completely different standards. So now,
Right.
if we were talking about a person that was a prior deported felon in possession of a firearm, then a comment like the Sheriff Capers is the greatest title in the world, by the way, because I
Yeah.
love capering. Told reporters over and over that Oropeza was known frequently to fire an AR-15 in his front yard, and that they had been there numerous times, right? And
Yeah.
some neighbors corroborated that. So what am I trying to say there? Well, I'm trying to say that again, here we have shitty, short sleeve reporting that left out many facts that we need, but added what you talk about, this crap that doesn't need to be there. For example, seams and gaps. Why are seams and gaps important? Why is it important that there was only a couple of deputies for 700 square miles, Brian? That's a fact they should have dug into, because if you're going to Alaska on a hike or a
Yeah.
fishing expedition and you go
Well,
without bear spray or a PFAC, then you're an idiot. So if you live in one of these remote locations and you don't have some sort of emergency plan, Brian, you're just begging for trouble. You get it? So
right.
the other end of that seesaw, where it goes up and down, is, do people sometimes choose to live in outlying areas because they do want to be left alone, and they
Yeah.
kind of got a different lifestyle choice. You get where
Right.
I'm going with
Oh,
that?
yeah,
So
100%.
those are the issues we should be paddle digging for, and they never come up to it. So and let me go one more, and then we'll go into human behavior. So they go to Miss Pineda, and this is the quote out of the paper. And remember, we're talking WAPO, New York Times. We're not talking about some local high school paper. She said she didn't know Mr. Oropeza. She said she didn't know his family, but she did know that they'd been living there about 5 years and that they were known for hosting parties late into the night.
So which is it?
And what is that? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So, have you ever met the family? No, I haven't. Well, could you comment on it? Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah.
So, Brian,
But because part of what that does, well, mainly what that does is kind of it muddies the waters, right?
it sure
So
does, and it diminishes
the
real
journalist
facts.
is trying to get a saying or something or
Yep.
get some information, but the person says, "Well, I don't really know him." But then I heard, like, it's like, okay, if you're
Yep.
already starting with hearsay, right, then
Yes,
you're
but
not a good
you're on it.
witness.
You're on it, but
And
you
this is how
also
the story
understand,
gets spun out of control.
right? And words matter. So when a copper says that there had been a couple of calls
Yeah.
to Oropeza's home, couple is different than few. Those words matter, and there's a statistical number assigned to those words. So don't go throwing those words out from your PIO, right? If you're not willing to back those up. The other thing is, like the dispatcher, they said and I can't remember the number of calls, but they said that there were numerous calls about this incident, and that
I think it said 4, I think,
right,
or 4 or 5. Yeah.
right,
So
and,
numerous. Yeah.
and the idea is that would fit, but then the question came up about response time to those calls. Again, Brian, we're talking about time. The big thing a year ago was number of shots fired. Now all of a sudden it's about response time, and we're not going to be able to get off that response time. Now, if I wanted to read something, Brian, I don't know if you remember this, but you and I had talked about this in 2012. But in 2012, because we were coming in and out of Saudi Arabia, the kingdom, the celebratory gunfire at the wedding shot the electric cables. It fell into the party, and 23 people
it
were
was something
killed
like
instantly.
a couple dozen or something. Yeah, it was insane.
Okay, remember that caper?
Yeah, and you see that stuff all the time on videos. Yeah,
right. And celebratory gunfire is very common in the place we went. You remember my story when we were together about the Chaldean Club in Warren and the weekly shootings.
You remember my July Ramadi,
exactly.
Iraq, where I thought the whole city was erupting, and I was ready to get some on, and I thought we were going to be overrun, and it was Iraq had just won a very prominent soccer game, and everyone was. I was like, okay, how many people almost died that day because of it?
Think of that, but it's common, right? So taking something that is extraordinary, where we get the word extraordinary from, and trying to make it commonplace, we have to understand cultural norms in this context. Why? Because culture is context. So we know that Central South America, Latin America communities deal with machismo. This plays right into human behavior.
Yeah, I see.
So if I'm being challenged and I've already got alcohol on board, ETOH, and I'm armed, you're now complicating the calculus by adding things onto a normal situation. Now, you remember the video with the shovel in the snow? Hey, you're a
Yeah, in
fag. Hey, I hate you.
Pennsylvania.
Back.
Yeah, yeah,
And what
yeah.
did it end with? It ended
It,
with 3 dead,
coup-
Brian.
yeah, a couple people
And
died. Yeah,
how long did it take? You
a couple
get what I'm trying
minutes.
to say?
Yeah,
So the idea is the guy killed a couple and then he went back and shot himself. Here we got a situation where this guy's behavior is being normalized. He routinely goes out and shoots in his yard. That part might not be illegal. He might not supposed to be having a firearm. That's something that we didn't get
yeah,
followed up on.
yeah.
And there's allegations that there's alcohol. Well, I'll tell you what, I was a copper for a good long time, and everywhere I go, it's a crime to carry a firearm while you're under the influence of alcohol or substance. Now, you and I didn't do a BAC, so we don't know that. But merely the allegation that those things were going on increases the risk. Okay, so if you and I were just doing a cost benefit analysis,
Right.
what would we say? We would say, one, this was after 11 p.m. in Texas. Now, I don't know Texas well enough to figure out what the sun was doing at 11 o'clock, but I
Yeah, but it
assume,
wasn't high in
like
the
the
sky.
rest of the world,
Yeah,
exactly, it wasn't bright. Okay. We're also talking about the guy that routinely shoots. Does he routinely shoot just before nighttime? And a family comes with a legitimate complaint, but that legitimate complaint is exacerbated by what? By the guy, home rule. I'm standing on my ground. I'm
yeah.
shooting and I've had a couple of drinks. So are you insulting me? Is this what happened right in front of your
Right.
family?
And
Right. So
and
to me, that's a much more logical path to follow, Brian.
it
I would have gone there.
it is, and that's why I kind of brought up, like, stress fractures and
Yes.
what we see in that stuff, and because, and I was kind of talking about this. It's what I get into arguments sometimes with my good buddies who are really, that shoot a lot and have a ton of
Yep.
guns, and like, I'm all for them doing that. They're that's what they do, that's their hobby. But because a lot of them too were special operations and did
Yes.
different specialized units and just have been shooting since they were kids, and it's so normalized to them that that becomes a problem, because it's like, well, hang on, man, you did that in a certain context for a really long time. In this context, that's not normal. Like, you shouldn't hear those things. Like, this
Exactly.
shouldn't go on. I mean, him, like, I'm shooting in my front yard and saying, I'll do what I want in my front yard, was the quote
Yep.
that they quoted him saying that evening.
Yep.
That's you don't have the, like, okay, you can do what you want on your property, absolutely, but you're free to do as what you want, so long as you're not impeding on the rights of others, and they have a right
Precisely.
to their own privacy, and you live in a community and the person's close enough to hear that. You have a duty to your fellow citizen in your society.
Even if it was a loud music complaint,
Yeah,
Brian.
it doesn't matter
Let's
what it is. If it
clarify
was a
that.
party,
Right.
the same thing. Like,
Exactly.
you don't get to do that. You don't get to bother other people with your actions.
Exactly.
That's where it crosses the line. And I think because some of the stuff becomes so normalized, like, people go, well, it wasn't a big guy. They're always shooting. It's like, no, not at this time, and not during this. And now that there's alcohol involved,
Precisely.
you could smell that if you're close up. Now he said something to you. Okay, these are all adding up, and kind of the reason why these things keep happening too. It's people walk into those situations and go and don't, they don't expect that to ever occur. They don't
So
think of
you're
these
not
potential outcomes.
calculating the risk, Brian. You're exactly right. And do me a favor, and I hate to interrupt you, but what part of that happened because there were Hondurans, or that
Right.
there were
It doesn't.
Mexicans, or
Yeah.
there were women? You see what I'm
Or
saying?
his
So,
immigration status, or the type of
precisely.
the caliber of the weapon. Like, what does that have to? What does a
And,
weapon caliber have to do with it?
and shout out to Jeff Williams. Comment on this, Jeff, if we're off the wrong track, because I don't know Texas gun
No.
laws as well as some other people. But let me tell you this, okay? I know that every state that I've ever operated in had some statute or law against displaying a firearm or other deadly weapon in a public place or in a manner calculated to cause alarm. Now, Brian, any Texas law enforcement officer listening, all of our friends that live in Texas, I'm assuming that if you add intoxication or suspected intoxication and threatening manner while possessing a firearm, Brian, that's a recipe for what? What's the outcome? You tell me. So if your risk, look, Jenga is a risk, right? When you're playing and you get up there and you start pulling the different pieces out, if all of a sudden your math, your mental math adds up that this might be a incident where this person is going to point that gun at me and shoot, then you got to back off. You got to wait for those coppers. You got to take the people in the car and drive down the next neighborhood. Listen, how fast does rage come on? Well, it's a human-based emotion.
So that's what we're kind of getting to in this, right? Because we've called them, rage attacks before,
Yeah.
and that's what happens in these situations. It's not unlike the recent one again, where the kids ding dong ditch in the house, guy chases after them,
Perfect example.
and he kills them. They die in the car accident, right? Because he's chasing after them.
Yep.
It's what no one's doing that math. The kids weren't doing that math when they were going to ding dong ditch them. I think ding dong ditching someone is about the lowest level public nuisance thing you could possibly do.
Followed only by lighting the paper bag of shit on the porch, right?
Yeah, at least that
mean,
that one actually has some consequences and potential danger to ringing
so
someone's door, and if you're sitting there behind that door waiting to kill anything that comes up to you, I think you're the problem. I mean,
you're exactly right. So what separated a caper a couple of years ago, where the boy and the girl repeatedly broke into the guy's house, and about the third or fourth time that there was a burglary, the guy lied in waited until they came into the house, shot the boy, and the girl tried to get away and shot the girl. And do you remember that incident? Well, look, that's a calculated ambush. Okay. And you're saying, well, you have the right to defend your home. Yeah, but you don't have the right to create a premeditated murder situation.
That demonstrates intent by doing that.
Okay. So go back to yours. And first of all, I've never liked the title Ding Dong Ditch, because that's not what we called it growing up. And every time I hear that, it sounds like a fun, happy thing, right? It sounds like going and collecting candy on Halloween.
It's ringing someone's doorbell and running away. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The two incidents you alluded to, the guy that crashed into the vehicle at 90 miles an hour, killing the kids in the vehicle, he just got convicted. Okay. And that's homicide. That's murder. Okay.
Yeah.
That's intentional. And then the other guy that was months before that one, because you remember they were very in close proximity.
Yeah.
Pulled up, blocked their car at the cul-de-sac, and came out shooting, Brian, and just was blatantly, blasting away in the car. So once you get on rage has to run its course. Rage has to abate on its own. So negotiation at that point, like if you remember reading some of the different articles that came out about this caper, one of the females said, well, we're safe because he's not going to shoot a female. That was a cultural thing that she thought about until he killed half the people in the first house he went to. Right? You see how that you can't judge a person that's in rage and saying, okay, hold on.
It's unlikely that they're going to do this. They probably won't. No, they're going to, if you're in their way, they're going to come right through you. There's no stopping that. And that's an important thing to say.
You can predict that rage is going to occur, but not where it's going to pour out like a tornado, right?
So let's sort of talk about rage for a second then. And because, there's rage can come from different things. You can be immediately in the moment, see something and go spill right over into rage. You can slowly build in anger and resentment and just inner mental turmoil, whatever the hell you want to call it. You can have that build up over time, and then some seemingly small incident is the one that pushes you over. Hey, a neighbor telling you hey, do you mind not shooting right now? Whatever those things are. But can you explain what you mean then when you say kind of what's the difference between there and what you mean by rage has to run its course? Because we've said that a lot, but I don't know if we've really done a deep dive on what we mean by it.
So let's talk about you and I, because the folks that listen to us routinely will know each of us set an operational tempo, and we usually keep to it. Every once in a while, when you and I are talking about a deeply emotional subject that comes very close to who we are, we'll drop the F-bomb or we'll go into a tirade. That's a form of rage, a very low level, starting to leak out, and usually we can hold that in.
Well,
usually we can say, I'm going to throw a sandbag.
You're getting angry and you're getting upset.
But I don't want to say just anger, and you just nailed it. Anger and being upset and being anxious. So every emotion has a bandwidth.
Yeah.
Just like a music, just like a song going out, right? And what happens when you go to the ends of those look, do it this way. Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. When you go to the far extreme on the violet, okay, you have ultraviolet above violet, or you go infrared before red. So Anger is like that, Brian. Your emotions are like
Right.
that. Happiness is like that. Have you ever seen anybody just start laughing? Okay. Or be very happy in a moment because they saw or they smelled or they felt something? Well, if you can feel that on the fringe of that emotional spectrum, okay,
Right.
then also anxiety can build up to the point where you go, hey, just fucking get off my back. And then that anger, when it outbursts like that, Brian, all those emotions pour through that crack and they keep going. And another thing, do you see what I'm saying? So now,
Right.
if I manifest that by having a French knife in the kitchen, I might actually turn around and point to you, indicating you with that French knife because it's local, it's handy,
But
and it also means something. So now what I've done is I've turned a simple tool into a weapon because I'm demonstrating intent. So the anger has to abate. Anger reaches a threshold, it breaks out like you put a piece of paper in the fireplace. The fireplace has been going right, but it's kind of, going down low. So you roll up the paper John candy and you stick it in the gosh damn thing. And then what happens? All of a sudden it bursts and it rages, Brian. And then guess what happens? It goes back down to where it was before. But you can't time that. You can't figure out how
well,
long that's going to be, and
and
different things exacerbate
and
it
you can't and kind of sort of that difference between the anger and rage is like you can operate an angry and you
all
can
day
even
long.
walk yourself back. You can get angry about something. I can get up, I can walk outside, I can take a deep breath and immediately lower my blood pressure and heart rate
Precisely.
and start walking myself back. But once, like you said, it gets to that action of that sort of that rage where nope, this is it. Now, like you said,
Yep. It's
every
on.
emotion that I've had, it doesn't matter. It's the I'm
Exactly.
not just angry at this, everything that's going on in my life. And then you know what? The White Sox are playing like shit this year, and then the neighbor comes
Yes.
over and says that each one on their own is not meaningless, but each one is only a little bit, and any human can
Precisely.
take that. But when all coupled together, and now I have some significant event or something significant to me, oh, now you're gonna say I can't do something like this on my own
Right.
property. Oh, now I can't even do what I want here. I'm having a hard enough time out in society, but here in my safe
Yep.
place, in my home, in my castle, you're gonna
And a
come in and
minute
tell
ago
me
I
what I
was
can't do?
laughing, and now
Nope.
you're up in my grill.
And,
So let me
the
give you a
flash to
parallel.
bang on it is so quick.
Right. And that's why you can't measure it. That's why you can predict weather, but you can't measure it exactly. I can give you the barometric
and
pressure. I
and,
can
and
tell you
everyone's
those
a
things
little
and
bit
it'll add
different
up.
when they hit that point, right? So
Yes, of
maybe you
course.
can take
And
more than I
alcohol or
can.
drugs or
Right.
a lack of sleep, Brian. So I'll give you a parallel. So, I've had to testify as an expert witness in use of force cases in a bunch of different courts across the country. Well, one of them was a caper where a guy wanted to leave the hospital and the hospital kind of wasn't ready for him to leave yet. So what happened is that two untrained security guards that worked there began to use physical restraints, arm holds, arm bars, which the person was just slipping out of because he was wet and he wasn't wearing a lot of clothes and he wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Well, then one of the people latched on with a lateral vascular neck restraint that was misapplied that started cutting off the vagus nerve and cutting off the oxygen. Once that person's body sensed that they couldn't breathe, there was an outburst of energy, and
Yeah.
he clawed and fought and bit viciously until he was safe again in his brain. And then he calmed down, and they were able to tase him and take him into custody and do everything else. So what they had done is in that bandwidth of rage, they had charged him with 3 different assault and this and that and all that other stuff. You can't do that because he wasn't there. He wasn't even there, Brian, because what happened is his physical, corporeal body, his brain said, I'm dying and I need to claw out of this. And you know what's the most unnatural thing in the world for humans? Ask any of your SEAL friends. We all have a bunch of SEAL friends, Brian,
Yeah.
going underwater. You know why?
Yeah. You,
Because the second you put your head underwater, your brain is saying, I'm going to die. I got to get
that
out of this situation.
that's why a lot of people can't get through that training or certain aspects of it because their brain's taken over going, no, you can't do this, even though you can train
Exactly.
to stay under there longer or do
And
things or
some
get,
people,
some
just
people
like
just
you said,
can't.
some
Yeah.
people are better and some people can't. So if your brain and your body are already set up physiologically to defend against certain externals, now we add things like culture as context with the machismo. And now we add alcohol to the equation and the person has a gun in their hands. Brian, I'm going right back to my argument. It's a recipe. It's a recipe for disaster. And that comment any other day at 12 noon while he
Yeah.
was out there would have meant nothing. And even there was an argument made in one of the stories that the guy had shown no stress fractures, horse shit, because he was friends with the neighbor and actually came and helped them take down a tree in his yard.
Yeah,
That doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
Tell
And
them why, though.
we attribute it. That's, your what we've talked about, your
Yep.
basic fundamental attribution error. Okay, my neighbor
Precisely.
helped me,
This
take
one
my
time.
heavy, garbage cans down the street and let me borrow the wheelbarrow and even came over and helped move some of the dirt. He must be a good person. I had no idea he's, making, lampshades out of human skin in his basement. It's like, yeah,
Ed Gein, baby.
well, you can operate at that frequency and be a contributing member of society and be seemingly normal on the surface and have other, but that's too terrifying to think of, because a lot of people don't understand that, because they're not those people. Most people are normal and good people and would help out and don't do any of those things. So they don't see it in others when they go, well, what could be underneath that surface? Because there's always something that's gonna bleed out, whether it's a comment, whether it's I kind of felt a little odd near that guy.
Exactly.
You have to listen to those things, and you can get better at it. But everyone throws those things in. Well, I saw him do this one time and he sang in the church choir. It's like, that's great.
That fixed everything.
Doesn't mean anything. And you have to go with what is it that they're leaking out, especially with their behavior, not just what they're saying, but words do matter in this stuff, because it's a way to communicate.
You're exactly
obviously. But communication is done in a number of forms. I might communicate with words. I might communicate with actions.
Nonverbal
I might communicate with no, I'm going to keep shooting out here. That's a method of communication. I'm not going to cut my lawn anymore, even though I'm supposed to and the HOA says I am. That's all sort of a form of communication. It's a way to speak out and transmit to the world, and everyone chooses their own way of doing it, and we do it without realizing. Your inaction could be something. Don't get into any details.
Yes.
We're on a call that was getting very annoying, and the person was being both deliberately not clear and being a kind of a jerk about it.
An obstinate,
didn't always really realize he was being such a jerk about it, but definitely was, and treating people incorrectly. And I asked my question, and when I didn't get the answer I wanted and I got treated that way, what did I do? I tuned out,
checked the F out,
pulled up I was like, got to get a new battery for the Tundra, so I'm going to start looking at those online right now, and they just didn't even pay attention to the rest of the call. And then at the end went, wait, what are we doing? Oh, okay, I got it. And because why? That was my method of coping with that, rather than coming off the top rail. I'm like, well, if this is how you're going to treat me, I'm not going to give you the attention that you're demanding right now.
I've seen your remarks are so important. I want to just dovetail on it. I've seen our CEO, Shelley, in half dozen shootings, and I've seen her in probably 24 fights. And I mean physical altercations,
most
fighting.
Of them with you.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I wish. Because I like that shit.
Yeah,
very much so. Shelley operates at a level of anger that if you don't know her, you wouldn't understand. But I've never seen her fight angry.
No.
And I've never seen her in a shooting angry. She was completely calm, blood pressure's in the 60s, right? Arresting subjects, tackling them, fighting with a number of people in a thing where I was going like, does she know how big she is and where she is, right? But you know me, and you've seen me flip my lid and lose my mind on things that you would have probably bet he's never going to say anything about those. So if you think that you can predict, like, for example, you can predict if a person lies to you that they're going to continue to lie to you. Why? Because the leopard doesn't change your spots, the best predictor of past behaviors, future behavior. But Shelley runs angry all day long.
Yeah.
And she's angry about everything. And it actually gets funny because
it's hilarious.
Poke the bear once in a while to go, what do you think about that, Shelley? Nope. You can hear it from the other room. And it's funny, right? But Shelley isn't the person that's going to do what we saw here, because she's in control of her emotions. But there's going to be the right blend, Brian. It's going to be that day that it's a little too early for that joke and the wrong thing, and then it brings up her son. You get what I'm saying? And now what do we get? Like your STDs, we get the perfect storm, okay, of virulent stuff that's coming out. And Brian, you're not going to be able to cage it in. And that's rage. Rage is when you cannot pen in that STD or emotion. And
I believe it's the perfect storm of venereal diseases.
Yeah, well, you got the award. Read it off the beaker. But think about it. We're not making fun of Brian's STDs too much. But think about it though, Brian. That perfect storm comes up. So as a normal, clinically human in your environment, you have to predict where that might happen. So Brian likes to talk about gas stations. Why?
Yeah.
Because gas
Or
stations
parking
are
lots.
that
Yeah.
type of, no, I would add parking lots. Okay, because a gas
Yeah.
station by itself, any
Yeah.
parking lot is more white belt, yeah. But it's
Yeah.
exactly right. So if you're in that, like somebody's going to go, oh my God, here we go again. If you're out in public, you're going to be at risk. No, you're not. You might be at risk of getting hit by a space lab that's fallen, from a couple of miles above the earth. But the idea is you sometimes fail to predict those situations that are going to get you in a trick bag. And this is one time. Brian, the comment that I highlighted from all of the reports that I read on this is he went in to shoot people who were getting ready for bed. Think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Think about that. So this isn't normal. This didn't happen in a normal context, and it had nothing to do with the Honduran
Yeah.
habits of sleep. This
Yeah.
the legal advisor, just to stir the pot, they went to a Second Amendment advocate named Grisham, and he says the use of the AR-15 style handgun is meaningless because he could have killed those people with a handgun. Yeah, he could have killed them with a hammer. And the whole idea of bringing that up and then in the article citing Tennessee and the other
Yeah. It
Oklahoma and all
doesn't.
that other stuff,
Well,
Brian, that's salacious.
it
That's what it is.
well, to me, it's just it adds no value to the
Right,
conversation. Like it's not,
right.
it's just like you're bringing up things because you have some political agenda, and that's why. I
You're
mean,
exactly right.
why don't we talk about the facts of the case, how we can learn from this and how we can learn to cope, because people are under pressure, and like you're getting this bombarded with stuff all
Yes.
the time. I don't know, is the economy good? Is it bad? Or is employment low?
Much more
Is it
salient
high?
points.
Is it interest point? Is it what does this interest rate thing mean to me? Like it's
Yep.
all of this constant bombardment of stuff. And it's still, we talked about it during COVID, and when there was, people weren't going to work, and they were saying, what happens in those situations, and people still haven't coped with it or realized that. Everyone's just like, well, we're just going to forget about it and go on. It's not a thing anymore. It's like this all affected everyone, right? And with this lack of communication, Pablo
That's all right.
had a great little post on LinkedIn, and he was kind of making a joke, but he's trying to get people to go to that event, that
Yes.
mixer thing, and he pulled some stat showing, like, from the CDC, like how it was something like lack of social interaction is the like over time is the equivalent of smoking, like 15 cigarettes a day or something like that to your health.
Precisely.
It was like he was trying to, but it's so true. And then so now we factor this in, and everyone's under pressure. Now maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe I'm not supposed to have this gun. Maybe I'm just in here working, trying to get my family and pay for bills. And then now
Yep.
this erupts into all this. I have this pressure, and we don't realize that as humans. Like this, the people, some people are out there that are just kind of ticking time bombs, right? And
Exactly. So let's talk about that for a second. Brian, is it likely that our shooter here knew that the cops were on the way? And the answer is clearly yes, because a number of people said that he said, I've called the cops. I've already called the
so
cops.
he
This is
knew,
our
yeah,
complainant,
yeah.
right? So he knew that. Is it likely that if he was deported before, that the situation was probably similar? Yeah. So
He knows
he
the drill.
should have left. He should have gone inside. He should have stopped. So we know that rage attached at that point because he wasn't thinking clearly. Might have been the alcohol, might have been a bunch of other factors, but we know that's likely. So here's what we can prove. We can prove that he ditched the gun when he was running, and he didn't run to the house. He didn't run and barricade himself, Brian. He ditched
No,
the gun
he
and
took
ran.
off.
He
Yeah.
left guns in his house, and he didn't take a day pack. So the coppers and the UAVs and the drones and everything, they started searching the area, and they go, man, we lost him. He had family in the area,
Yeah.
and he also went to ground within 2 miles. So we can prove intent. He intended to flee
Yeah.
because he knew what he had done is wrong. That's a logical string that we can tie.
We,
And he went to ground. Why, Brian? Because he knew he was unlikely to get out of that area, so he relied on his friends. The rage had abated, and now he's thinking again.
That's a good point. Okay, this happened. Holy shit, I just killed all these
Yep.
people. I'm in deep trouble. I gotta go. But like you said, he didn't take his weapons with him.
Yep.
He didn't
So
stop.
this wasn't a
He didn't
family
barricade.
annihilator.
He went,
didn't want to
I'm
blow his
out of
brains
here.
out.
I'm
Yep.
gone, and tried to run. And then what did he do? He's like, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm gonna go hide. I think he was found even like
Yep.
within a couple miles of his sister's house or something like that. So in an area
Which is why,
Yeah.
and family helped hide him, and he was in
Yeah.
the laundry room under clothes.
Yeah.
This is why if we would have been asked to consult on this early on, we would have made all these points. Everybody listening to us, we would have said that there's a reason he ditched his weapon. There's a reason he didn't take weapons with
it's
us.
unlike
He's going to be within this radius with family members. He's not going to shoot it out with you. He's not got an agenda. Right. Those are unlikely factors. Why is that important? Because I think something that was just below the surface, you remember that the article that came out the day after said this guy's still, he was on the run 4 days, I believe. Check your own facts, folks. But the one the next day is we have no idea where he is. He could be anywhere. Those articles came out because the news media had to publish something. They got to keep it up in our face. But I think that law enforcement knew exactly what we knew. And they didn't want to push and get him to say, hey, I'm going to run or I'm going to shoot it out. And what's the best way? We have to let that anger level, that anxiety abate again. And we've got to go very methodical. How far could he get on foot? Does he likely have a vehicle? Where's his closest family member?
You're going to go to some place unknown to you. You're going to go you're going to seek familiarity in those situations.
Precisely.
And the familiarity was him going to a family or friend, and even, ditching the guns and everything. And he didn't need any of that for what. So, I mean, you got to think about it in that moment. The guy that stops to pick up the wad of cash or the gun that he is carrying while he's being chased. It's very important to them. The guy that just ditches it is like, I don't need that. It's
exactly. There's a reason.
So I'm not going to use it.
Precisely. He didn't accidentally drop it. The sling didn't break while he was crawling through the brush. All of those are the most important factors. And you started the episode by saying what's important. Those are important. Not that the guy's Honduran. Not that the guy was reported. Not that the guy came through the El Paso border crossing. And what happens is those actually hang on to a story and make the story less important over time.
And everyone uses it then as a rallying cry for some political agenda that they have, and that which means you're trading on the deaths of these innocent people, and that's what you're doing.
Standing on the bodies to get ahead.
And whichever direction you're going with that legislation, I don't care. That's what you're doing. And so why does that fix anything?
No, and let's add one more.
You said, hey, there's no shooting past this time or something because it's a nuisance. Okay, that makes sense. There's normal nuisance laws in every city, you know what I mean? Like that's a common thing everywhere, because you don't have the right to just annoy the shit out of your neighbors.
But it could have been music. That's the idea. I love the way you're going with that, because you got to be just I don't want to say black and white on that, because it's never completely black or completely white, but it's certainly much more binary than they made it. So I'll give you an example, and probably my last example of something that pissed me off. They said that of the victims, and I can't remember who casually made the comment, nobody should have to see a crime scene like this. I'm paraphrasing. Each one of the victims was shot at close range in the head, and it appered to be assassination-like. Okay, all of that's spurious.
I don't know what
execution.
But I don't know what execution style means, because if you're shooting someone with a gun, you're trying to kill them.
So has intent been met? Yes.
Yeah.
And the idea is that this is an easier way to prove intent, because he closed with the target and then he shot him in their most vulnerable place. Why am I saying that? Brian, if he was out shooting in the yard and he just turned and fired 5 rounds into the house from his position at his home and said, kiss my ass, and just fired wildly and hit somebody, Brian, that's a different from cold-blooded murder. You get what I'm trying to say? Or a heat of passion crime. That drops it right down to, manslaughter. Okay, voluntary or involuntary. Why is that important? Those are the important things that people need to understand. When you pull up in my driveway and I'm not expecting it, all the hype is armed home invasion, and I start shooting, those are things that can be expected. And we whip our own society into a fervor and don't tell people, calm down, nothing's likely to happen. These are extraordinary events, but you also have to be in charge of your own personal safety. And you have to write your own algorithm, and you have to notice when constellations of clues start to form, Brian. And if those clues say opportunity, go get the sign just came on at Krispy Kreme, go get your free donut. Or danger, hey, Krispy Kreme's door is propped open and I don't see anybody behind the counter. You get it? You got to do that. Wait every day when you're out there.
And again, because we don't analyze these things very well, and it gets played out in the media so often, and people like this creates inevitability in other people's minds, right? The more I see it, the more I think, like, meanwhile, 3 million people knocked on someone's door that day and the interaction went fine and nothing happened. But
And
because
one
of
guy
this,
got punched in the nose, right?
so well
Okay, exactly.
that's what I mean. And if I'm consuming this like, oh my, here it goes, and it happened again and again, and it's going to happen to me.
Yep.
If I create that inevitability in my mind, I'm adding to that. I mean, all that's what
That's how it works.
that's how these things that's how social contagion works. I mean, you know what I mean? That's literally I see something happen. I think it's the most important thing that's likely going to happen to me. It's now a possibility that it's going to happen to me, and it makes it more likely, right? And the more I see it, the more it confirms my own belief that this will happen.
You're absolutely correct. And I would add the allegory of cave again.
Yeah.
You're sitting
Plato.
further from the fire.
Yeah.
And now those dancing images that you see are a little more menacing. And now I'm a little more afraid to fall asleep because
Right.
I think what's happening in the other room. Brian, every time I read those articles and when they conflate them and say, here's just another example of the United States and society going crazy. The Serbian kid that shot up his school, killed the security guard first, shot the kids in the school, and then went back home, put his weapons away, and called the police and said, hey, I'm the kid that just did it. Here was my plans. Here's everything. So everybody said, wow, just like a U.S. shooting. No, it's not. What U.S. shooting did a kid go home and call the cops and say, hey, I was the one?
Yeah.
But by conflating those and adding the black kid
No.
that got shot by the 85-year-old white kid in there, Brian, we're putting shit in bundles that don't fit.
Yeah.
We're washing our whites with our colors on hot. And then we're wondering why the high temperature ruined our clothing. This is what's happening to the fabric of society.
Yeah, and the conflating those, it just makes it easier to get confused, and then when we're confused, we don't understand something, we're scared, and we don't make good decisions.
Fear can drive rage as well. Yes. Can fear ever get to? Come on.
Absolutely. That's and fear-based decisions are never good decisions.
Never.
I mean, they're just not. And you fear what was it? I think you said one time, fear is very myopic, right? It doesn't. It's very laser focused. When you are scared, you care about you and you only, and that's what you're going to fall back on. And that fear is just. I mean, there's a lot of people that are scared out there. There really are. And that's where this stuff comes down to. It's fear, and then the constant buildup of anxiety of everything that I see. It adds to this. And if I don't get some time and distance, if I don't get some space, if I don't step away from that,
sometimes,
if I don't change the perspective and try to really understand something, I'm always going to be scared, and those decisions are never good. But if you can learn to understand and see these things and not be scared, actually it's I feel like you have a lot more opportunity. I don't know.
So what do we try to do when we have these discussions? And this is a great discussion I'm really enjoying today. And the funny thing is, I also enjoyed our Patreon, and the topics that we're talking about are horrific.
Yeah.
These are terrible things. So why do we have fun during these ones? Because we're showing people you don't have to look at this as a dead end road. You don't have to look at this as a self-licking ice cream cone or a self-fulfilling prophecy. There is a way out. And the way out isn't just going, here we go again. That's not a way out.
No,
that's not a choice, Brian.
It's taking, trying to take a clinical approach.
Yes.
And what we do too on here is, separate the emotion from the event, right? Because that's never, that clouds
counterproductive,
the way you look at things. I mean, these are, some innocent people lost their lives. We're not being callous about that fact.
Nope.
In fact, we're being, I think, more respectful than a lot of people who will grandstand on this and take advantage of those poor folks that did it. Is we're trying to say, look, these are the things that occur leading up to these events. This is what you can see. This is how they coalesce together. And so when you're in those situations, you have to be able to understand, like, oh, wait, this is one of those things that they were talking about, right? It's now starting to add up, because that changes my intervention strategy. If that guy had known and understood all of this, he probably never would have went over there and said anything to the guy. And you know what? The guy, what he was still doing was maybe wrong, but his family would still be alive. And I'm not victim blaming. I'm not saying it's his fault.
They would have been sleepy. They might have been late for work, but they'd be alive.
And you can deal with things in the clear light of day, not in the middle of the moment, in the middle of the night when it's happening. If I can choose those two, I'm going to choose the clear light of the day, when I can get someone else to show up and I can actually get that police presence, maybe if it's necessary, and I can see what I can do. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, drag it out in the light. Don't try to solve the problem right now. get some time and distance. And I think just looking at it from that perspective, there's rarely a situation where it's so immediate and so emergent that you have to
Yep.
go running in there and try to, squash it right now. Those are very, very rare, and they're obvious when they do happen. I mean, that's the thing. They're
Exactly.
so obvious.
So let's obviate one. How many times in your life have you heard the term church fight and taking that you're an alcoholic and you're Irish? Hold on.
Yeah, it's in my
But I want you to
neighborhood.
listen to this. I want you to listen. So church fight on my left hand compared to bar fight on my right hand. Which one is the most common and which one trumps any attempt? Right. And we're not talking about walking into a mosque with the body bomb, Brian. I'm talking about the good old fashioned church fight. They don't happen. It is so rare that it would be remarkable. But a bar fight, now people are going, well, you're oversimplifying. No, I'm not.
No.
I'm giving you the menu. I'm handing you the menu. And on my menu, there's a recipe. So if you want to talk about chicken fried steak, you can clearly see at the end of every podcast, Greg gets hungry. But if we're going to be talking about chicken fried steak with a couple of sunny side up eggs on some hash browns, oh my God, I'm hungry. What I'm going to do, Brian, at the bottom is I'm going to not only give you the recipe to make them, but I'm going to give you the calories and the fat grams. Why is that important?
Right.
Because if you do the calculus, Brian, you'll know your own best answer. And what happens, though, is I'm going to go over and say something. Now, just stay here. I'm going to go over and say something. Just wait for the cops to arrive, right?
Well, you're to stick with that sort of the food analogy, I guess.
I'm hungry.
It's the snacking example.
Yes.
Well, I only had a little bit here, and a little bit here, and a little bit here. It's like, yeah, you ate a massive bag of chips over the course of 7 hours. Like you didn't notice it because you had a handful, and then you went back and had another handful, and each handful is nothing. You can burn that off just fine, but you had 15 fucking handfuls spread out over a day or two. Like that's when it occurs. It's the small subtle changes, those little things. It's always the little thing. I talk about that even with the family. I was like, we were talking about that with the baby coming and everything too. I was like, hey, like I want to focus on the little things because it's the little things that matter, right?
That's what matters.
We don't have to have some big, here's how we're going to change everything, and this is the comprehensive program. It's like we're going to focus on the little things every single day. And then over time, look at what that's going to do. And it's with the insurgent here. I'm going to add one more thing that you're going to have to get done every week because you're going to have to start helping out now. Before I want to get her on that track so she's used to doing these chores and responsibilities before the baby comes, right? So if these little things, so that way when the event occurs, it's not a catastrophic change of the way we do things. It doesn't, the record doesn't spin out of control and you have to get restarted. It just falls into that groove. And these are all examples. And I love your church fight versus your bar fight.
Think about that
example. It's it's perfect because when certain locations, right, when events coalesce, things are going to happen. When I add certain ingredients, like you can add a little bit of pepper for taste, but eventually if you keep adding pepper, it's going to get hot. It's going to get spicy. Someone's not going to like it. So those ingredients.
So, and Brian, in all of the time that you talked to the insurgent, you were planning with your family and you guys were, I'm assuming you guys were playing quarter bounce and just chugging the alcohol anyway. I'm thinking that no time did the word Honduran or Mexican or AR-15 come up. And I want to make a point of that because it's as simple as church fight versus the bar fight, Brian. The idea is that we conflate issues by bringing in things that are important to us. Brick, are you talking about the vase? I love lamp, right? Or whatever that guy's name is. The idea here is that this is a fractured human that lashed out and then ran for it because he knew he had done wrong and he hid. And people are going to go, oh, well, this is just typical of that race, color, creed, religion, whatever. Shut up.
No,
that's
it's not.
the SDF up moment. We're all humans here.
Once you fall into that trap, you
can't get out.
Well, and it literally is falling into a trap because yes, you can't get out. You no longer look at any other evidence. You no longer do that, and you put everything. I'm just going to put it in this box. Now I can understand it. I'm going to throw that box on the shelf, and I'm not going to open it. It's like, wait a minute. Like that's how they act, or that's what'll happen, or what do you think's going to happen? It's like no.
And what do we do? What do we do when we fight? The barriers come down.
Yep.
And now it's, hey, fat ass. Hey, this black guy was up. You know what I'm saying? And now, and people go, oh my God, well, that's, the hidden racist. No, it's humans. This is how humans have acted for 170,000 years. So don't think that you're going to fix it with your gosh damn shitty rag article in the Houston
it's
Chronicle.
it's
You know,
the it's the it's the comment, hey buddy. So hey buddy is used to
yep,
talk to a dog, hey buddy,
yep,
talk to a little kid, hey little buddy,
yep,
and start a fight, hey buddy.
you
Like
got it.
I mean, it's
I
like
told you, I'm getting up out of my seat, and the guy just body checks me on an airplane.
yeah.
And I said, "Hey, sorry about that, partner. I'm just trying to get my bag." And he looks me in the face and leans forward and says,
Here we
"I'm
go.
not your partner." And it
Yeah,
was on. It was like,
yeah.
well,
I'm gonna
now you
make you
wanted
my
to see him?
partner.
He's here now. Your partner's here. You get what I'm trying to say? And oh, I had such fun with him all the way down through the ramp and
Yeah,
going down the baggage
yeah.
claim and everything else. Because you know me, somebody wants to play. I hate
Oh,
bullies. Somebody wants to
yeah.
play. It's
I
on
know.
now.
And then
And
now you
I
get
had to make it a
latched
point.
on, and
I
now
really did.
yeah, no,
And
no,
I feel
that's
bad now, but
right,
then you
right.
think that this behavior is appropriate for this area? Not only isn't it, I'm going to remind you why, and I'm going to show you what real behavior acts like. And Brian, that protracted situation. Now it was in my seat, and I was holding a weapon. Come on, you
Yeah.
add certain ingredients, and something's going to happen. Hey, you pour alcohol in and put the pan back on the. I'm still talking food, and put the pan back on the oven. Opa, you got the
Yeah,
saganaki, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
sometimes it's a good effect, but sometimes these catalysts, these things that come together aren't.
And so that's the idea behind talking about this is why don't we break it down into these different types of elements, and if I
Yes.
see the elements right, it's easier for me to see when they come together. I
And
don't
be
know.
warned by them,
Well,
and
and
and be
what I'm getting at
aware
is
of them.
what
Yeah.
I'm not going to know what I'm going to see, but if all I have to look for, it's like the IED, the improvised explosive device, the bomb making
Yep.
recognition stuff. There's a million different ways to make them, so I can't sit here and look at different photos of them and then go out and expect to find them. But if you take apart all of the elements and show me, okay, this is a blasting cap, this is det
Yep.
cord. That's kind of how we build stuff, but you can make stuff on your own. Here's what homemade explosive looks like.
Yep.
Here's examples of a timer that I use. Here's examples of like how I can rip this lamp cord and use it. And so when I see all of these elements laid out in front of me, I go, oh, okay, I get it. So I don't need to look for the whole thing put together. I got to look for these individual things. And
Exactly.
I may see them. Obviously, I'm going to see that wiring in my car, okay, but in that situation, it's fine. But when it's not in that situation, it's something
So
that's
so
different.
let's go there for the parents that are listening, just for a moment. Brian, I go into my kid's bedroom because it's laundry day and I'm cleaning up. I'm not snooping, and you have the absolute right to snoop because you're the
Absolutely.
parent.
Oh yeah.
But all of a sudden, you look behind something and you find a piece of tinfoil, and you're thinking, okay, what's that used for? Well, that's used to wrap a sandwich. So it's not near the lunchbox. It's not near the garbage. And clearly the person keeps using it. So what is it used for? Well, it's used for smoking fentanyl or smoking crack or something else. Well, if a parent can't put those two things together, so it's more important saying, hey, your kid's got chore boy under the sink in their bathroom. And you look at it and you go, well, that's because they clean. Professional chefs are the ones that use chore boy. And you know who else does? People that are smoking rock or a kit for heroin. Why is that important? Because that's the logic I used when we built Combat Hunter to find a bomb, Brian, because there were thousands of artillery shells and UXO and all that other stuff. So the idea is not to teach you how to find a specific bomb, but what are the types of things that bomb makers have around? What are the types of things that have to come together to make a silencer or to make a bootleg liquor, Brian? And I'm smarter because now what happens is my advanced acumen, my advanced critical thinking allows me to look at a situation and go, wait a minute, this is incongruent. Every pot in the house is clean, but this pot has white residue in it. And every pot is in the shelf, but this one's under the sink hidden at the back. You see what I'm trying to say, Brian? Those situations that scream to us for snipers and bombs and insider threat should be just as simple for the people listening to us that are driving today and pulling in a parking lot and going, this doesn't fit. That's what we're saying. And I
Right.
think that's the power of a podcast, right? That we can train somebody how to do something from the comfort of their home.
Yeah, yeah, and the yellow pad everything. Write down what is it
Yes,
that you
everything.
saw. How did it make you feel? Why was that? How did this change over time? You can just yellow pad it and write it out. I mean, how many times have I told you I had another friend call and ask about this, and I said, all right, get the
Yep.
yellow pad out, and then they just like were like, Oh, they didn't have to ask me anymore once they started writing everything down because it became so obvious, right? It was so
What's the most
apparent.
frequent thing that we carry in our gosh damn luggage, Brian?
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, we
that
have packs of yellow
and
pads. Come
I've
on.
done that one too, where I said, all right,
Yep.
draw a line down the middle of the yellow pad,
You
right on
got
the
it.
side, what did the person say, and then right on this side, what did they do? And then they see this discrepancy, go like,
Yep.
oh, they keep telling me they're going to do this, but they only do this. They keep saying this, but okay, that's going to continue unless
You
something
got it.
acts upon that force. That force will continue as it is right now. So
Spot on.
there's a hopefully when we discuss this stuff, people are seeing their way through these situations for what they are, because I think it makes it more, well, it makes it easier to understand, and it makes it easier to then, well, we can change things, because if we just start grandstanding politically about some shit that's not going to help
Yep.
anything, then, well, it makes you feel better. Maybe you feel better.
So every time that we say St. Elmo fire is caused by the devil being mad at us, and thunder is just the way of warning us that we're not in God's good grace, we muddy the water.
Yeah.
What we got to do is we got to take it back and say this is an electrostatic charge that's formed by the Brian. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take math and science and simplify it and street it so everybody can use it and go, wow, that makes a lot of sense. When you're driving and you hear a thumpa, 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 something's wrong with the car, pull the hell over, don't increase speed, right? Well, maybe it'll stop. Maybe
if I keep
here,
maybe if I go a little faster,
and roll
it'll
down
stop.
the window and go a little faster.
Yeah.
Those are ludicrous. And so we're saying, first of all, and finally, this is not going to stop. It's not going to stop. A pendulum does swing. Society gets nicer, it gets easier, but there's a whole bunch of factors that have to come together for that to occur. And right now, we're not there. Are we getting there? Yeah. We're not going to some apocalyptic horse shit, right? Because that's what they want you to believe.
That's what some people, I think, want. Well, they think they want that, but
they think they want it until
it
they
happens.
Get it. You got it. And I would say, let's walk back from the edge for a second and take a look and say, almost everything that Brian and I talk about can be predicted. Almost everything. And I'll tell you what, flatulence can be predicted. Being a fat ass can be predicted. Dying of cancer from smoking too much, right? So all we're saying is that when we talk about human behavior pattern recognition, we're now in the podcast going to the analysis and saying the analysis is up to you. We're handing you the tools, but you have to do your own analysis, because Brian and I don't drive with you in a car.
Yeah, unless you're paying us to. So
well, we would. I was getting a back seat. You know why I do that, right? I was getting a back seat because it's the smallest seat to make everybody else feel like an asshole that takes shotgun. And I love that when we get those shitty rentals.
And then you go, no, I'm fine. And then like the seat is up in your face, and you're like you're pinned against it. I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? You were the first.
You know why I do that.
You were the first one at the car. You could
exactly. But I love to make those other people think and go, oh my God, I feel like an ass now.
All right. Well, the front passenger has to move the seat all the way forward. They're pressed against the windshield. Like, is that better? Like, oh no, you don't have to do that.
No, it's fine. Come on back. And I've got the headrest all up in my chin.
You're breathing on their head because it's so close.
But we do that. How many times have you seen me do that? I love it. I love stirring the pot, Brian.
Yeah, it's always fun. So, all right. Well, I hopefully people have some takeaways. You can always reach out to us with any questions at leftofgreg@gmail.com. We've got a lot more on the Patreon side. Like I said, we covered that other case. There's certain ones we do just on that side and have discussions we have that we cannot have on here. One just to put behind. It's a very small paywall. It's only a few dollars a month.
It's not even a wall.
It's
more of a paid brick.
But it keeps the riffraff out, I say it keeps the people out who are clowns and just want to, just take shit out of context and take what people say and make their own way out of it. So we talk about certain things on there, and then we answer any of the questions that a lot of our listeners have or the Patreon members have. So you can check that out, and have it for a month and see what you think. And then it really helps us out. So anything else to add? I think that's
we travel. So if you want us to come talk to your church group or your college class or whatever, we love doing that stuff. Also, send us topics if you want to talk about something specific. That's a great point. Yeah. If you know somebody that would be a great guest on the show, it's not the way you think it would be. Call Brian, because Brian likes auditioning folks. I'll tell you what, Brian, my favorite episode of late, Todd Fox. Everybody, if you haven't had a chance to revisit that one,
we've had some good with Todd.
Todd's
have some
awesome.
Great one. Steve Drum is
wonderful.
Awesome, and then Leah DeBello. I want to have back on because she's so brilliant. She's just such a brilliant cognitive
scientist.
Nothing
against any of our other guests.
No,
it's just that all of a sudden You just have to fall in love with the one that you're talking to then, because it's right up in
Yeah.
your face, you know?
Yeah. And Todd's awesome too, because he's such
He
a
is a
professional
lot of
guy.
fun
He
there.
has more experience than anyone I've met, and you would never know that because he's just such a nice, down to earth person. And
Unassuming,
I love it.
humble.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So thanks everyone, obviously, for tuning in, supporting the show. Reach out with any
Yep.
questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with your friends, right? It helps us get the word out there, and more people that listen in. So thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. And don't forget, oh, that's Java in the background.
Yeah.
Greg's.
Java changes behavior.
Yeah, well, training. Oh, she looked. Training
She did
change.
too. It's great.
All right, thanks
She
everyone
heard
for
me
tuning
talking
in.
about breakfast.
Yeah, don't forget, training changes behavior.